Aloha! It's sunny and it's day number 17 for my husband and I to be in the house together, um, keeping away from this nasty virus like everybody's supposed to be doing. So we're breathing a little bit easier because while some people have shown symptoms after day 14, and I'm sorry, I scratched my nose, but I'm in my house by myself and I'm going to wash my hands. Wait. See? You're never far, right? There we go. So anyhow, yeah, we're all going through the same thing, aren't we? Everybody's getting a little testy with their co-prisoners. Yeah, well, there's worse things in this life than being stuck in house with people that you are loving. So, your kids, your spouse, whoever it is that you are significantly involved with on some level. And I give a shout out to my great grandson Kenai. He likes to see me on TV. So I will say hi. You can't see me. Peekaboo. You can't see me. He is almost 2 years old and he is the light of my life. But he's going to have to give up that status in a little bit, because in June, my other granddaughter is going to be having a baby girl named Hazel, which was my favorite grandma. I feel bad saying my favorite grandma. You know why? It's because my other grandma was wonderful too, I have been informed. And that I was very much in love with her and very close to her. But she died when I was 2. So I don't have memories of being with her like I do with my grandma Hazel. So anyhow, yeah, we're very excited about having a great granddaughter soon. And I mean, we have her already. We just can't see her. And anyhow, my granddaughter Kaylee is doing a good job of taking care of herself and making a healthy baby. So that's awesome. I will have to get you a picture of my almost 2-year-old great-grandson. Kenai is just the most handsome boy ever. And I guess since the day my dad was born, because he looks a lot like my dad. So anyhow, I hope that everybody's taking good care of themselves. I know of a couple of friends that have relatives that have the virus, and so we need to just pray for our country, pray for each other, pray for the world, okay? And I wanted to share with you something that when I was being a little quiet and having some prayer time, that I felt like, you know, sometimes you can hear that still small voice in your heart. And I felt that God was whispering to me about the fact that I should think of my life as it was in the days of Exodus, when he was trying to take his people out away from Pharaoh. And Pharaoh was not having any of it, and he just disregarded all the plagues. And then there came a time when God just had it up to here, and he's like, fine, and he told Moses to have everybody in the nation of Israel do a sacrifice, and to take the blood of that sacrifice and to wash the top of their door post, and then down the sides to paint the blood of the sacrificed lamb or whatever it was that they sacrificed, and that keep the family in the house after that. And so the Lord put that on my heart. And then he went on to say something about it also would be good to take communion. And I'm like, well, we're all supposed to stay in our house. How can we do that? And he's like, it doesn't matter that you don't have a pastor or a priest or a minister. You and I are good enough together. You can consecrate a piece of symbolic bread, cracker, anything. And it's just more for you to connect. It's more to help you really feel connected to me. Consecrate a little portion of that, and if you have wine, fine. If you don't have wine, even water would be fine. And remember Jesus' sacrifice, and that his body and his blood was given to cover the sins of humanity, and humanity meaning you too. So to spiritually wash the blood of Jesus across your door jamb and paint it down the sides, as if to remember that we are completely covered by the protective blood of our sacrifice lamb, which was Jesus. And for those of you who aren't, well, people will call it religious, but religious is really more than just believing spiritual things. It's being controlled by a lot of man-made dogma. But when you're having a relationship one-on-one with God, there's nothing religious about that. That's just a spiritual connection and a spiritual relationship. And so anyhow, I had gotten that, and it was so weird because I really have not seen many pictures at all of how it was during the time of Exodus, when the people had done as Moses said and painted the blood of their sacrifice on their door jambs. And that's when Pharaoh finally let them go, because as we know, then the spirit of death passed through and killed the firstborn of every family, even Pharaoh's firstborn, trying to get the attention of Pharaoh, trying to get his ear to listen to what God was telling him to do. So, anyhow, I haven't seen pictures of that. And not 2 days after I had heard that inwardly, all of a sudden I'm cruising on the internet, and it zoomed past so fast that I didn't even see what website had it. But there was a picture of the door jamb and somebody who had painted the blood of the sacrifice. And later I was watching a video by another guy, Sid Roth, who has a lot of really great things on his YouTube. And he was talking, and he was saying the same thing about that we should take communion even in our own homes, that we don't need a priest, and we don't need it to be bread, we don't need it to be wine, but just to do it to help us to connect with God. So I'm feeling I wanted to really share that with you. For those of you who don't know me well and don't know my story as far as my personal relationship with God, I have said before that I wasn't really raised in a spiritual, I wasn't raised in a religious home. My dad on occasion would say, you don't have to go to church to know and love God. That was about all I would hear every once in a while. And then every once in a while, it was a typical American home where you put on your cute little hat. And back in those days, it had the little net that came down to about here. And you put on your little white cotton gloves. And you have a special pretty little white purse. And you go with Grandma. And you go to church on Easter. And yeah, that was about all of my spiritual upbringing until a girlfriend of mine, her name was Diane Norris, and if by some fluke Diane Norris remembers me and sees this, please leave a message because I would love to say hello. She dragged me to her Southern Baptist church one morning. She had told me I could come over and have slumber party at her house, but only if you go to church with me in the morning. And that changed my entire life, because that is where I went from not even knowing if God existed and not even having any kind of knowledge whatsoever. They had a visiting youth choir, and their pastor come from somewhere else, and the pastor had proceeded to talk about Jesus, and I'm sitting there. Diane had dragged me to the church. If she's seeing this, she'll remember, I think, because it was quite unique. And so then they gave their little talk, and if you weren't raised really in say a Christian home that goes to church and they have all these things that you see happen in front of you, you don't really know. So they said, bow your heads and pray, and I was thinking, okay. And the pastor was saying his little thing, right? And in my head I was thinking, well, if there is such a thing as God, you would think that he would be great enough to be able to read your mind. So I guess when they say pray, I guess I'll just think my prayer. So I proceeded to think, if all of this stuff that I just heard about Jesus is true, I really wish there was some way that I could know. And I no more had finished thinking that than I physically felt something come right in here and all through me. And I know it sounds weird. It sounds really weird. But it felt like somebody was in my body with me. It felt very peaceful, very loved. And I can best describe the feeling, the physical feeling was similar to when you walk in a house and it's totally quiet, and you walk in and there's just something that tells you that somebody must be upstairs. Even though they're not making a sound, there must be somebody upstairs. And then you find out later, so-and-so had come home and they lay down and they're taking a nap or something. But I physically could feel the presence of God inside of me. Well, when this happened, it was like in an instant. And of course, my eyes went from like this to like this. And I looked at Diane, and Diane's eyes got big, and she looked at me, and I'm like, all of a sudden I start crying and crying, because it was just like all of a sudden I went from not knowing to knowing for sure. And I flew up to the altar where a lot of people had already gone up to ask God to come into their heart and to forgive them for... I didn't know what to say. I just told God, hey, anything bad or sinful that I've done in my life, please just forgive me. Just come in and just have this life with me. And make me everything I can be and help me to be pleasing to you. And that was the start of my entire beautiful, blessed life and all the different stages that I've gone through to get to where I am now. I totally believe is part of the whole story for everybody that has their own story. Everybody finds God differently, and what worked for me doesn't necessarily work for anybody else on this earth, but God will find you. He knows where you are. He's been watching over you and waiting on you. So when you're ready to talk to Him, don't be surprised if He talks back. And that's all I have to say. I'm saying I love all of you, regardless of where you are in your spiritual path. I don't really care, except to the fact that I hope you have a joyful and blessed life. But it's on you. It's your responsibility. Everybody's got to work out their own salvation in fear and trembling. So, because I love you, I hope that works out. But anyhow, I wanted to share that interesting, those two confirmations that I had about what I had heard in my heart, and then after that kind of got like from God saying, see, I told you so. Anyhow, I hope that you are having a good experience in your home. This can be a very silver lining type thing where you can reconnect with people that maybe didn't want to take time out of their busy lives to really sit down and connect with you, or maybe you were the one that just was always too busy to connect with them. But there's always something good that can come out of bad things. So look for those things and try to stay home. If you have to get supplies, try to make sure that you wipe, even if it's just with some bleach water. And you can find online the recipes for how much bleach to how much water. If you don't have bleach, try hydrogen peroxide or rubbing alcohol. Find your recipes online. Try to double check those to make sure they're right. You don't want the proportions there. I go again. What is it with us in our itch in our nose, huh? Okay, I got this stuff. And okay, I hope you guys are not just doing 20 seconds. Now they're saying 40 seconds. You got to wash your hands like this with the soap. Then you got to go and wash your hands on this side. And you got to wash your hands on this side. And then they were telling us to wash our fingertips like this. But now they're saying, in addition to that, put your hands together, and because that rubs this part. And then switch and get this part. And then you got to do your thumb, okay? Do your thumb. Hey, Kenai, do your thumb. Do your thumb. And do this thumb. And then do another pass around your wrist, okay? I mean, we're in the house. You may as well take a few extra seconds. It's not going to kill you. Okay, and then rinse, rinse, rinse. So, the reason I have gotten so excited about that way of washing hands is I saw someone put on rubber gloves so you could see, and then they used black paint. And then I've seen it again with some sort of blue something, bluish purple something. But the thing is, when you do it with a intense color like that, you can see the spots that are getting missed. And it reminded me, all of us old people will remember when the dentist would come once a year to our schools, and they would give us little toothpaste and a new toothbrush, and then we always had these strips with these red pills. And they'd make us go in and brush our teeth, and they'd tell us, brush our teeth really, really, really well, really well. They said, take your time, brush it really well. And then we'd go back to our room, then they'd say, open the little pills, now you chew it up, chew it, chew it, chew it, don't swallow. and swish it around your mouth because you're going to get some saliva. Swish those pills that you just chewed up. Now spit them out. Now look in the mirror. And we'd look in our mirror, and you could see where you had missed was stained with that red stain, where it still did not get cleaned enough. So they'd say, go back and brush your teeth, and this time scrub all the red stuff off. You remember that? I'm sure they don't do it anymore. Well, love you guys, and I will talk to you again soon. I got some makeup, and since we got nothing else better to do, it's makeup that's been sitting for months in my bag. I haven't even opened it yet. Let's open it together and let's put some makeup on and try to wash my hair. As you can see, the dark hair shows my bald spots, but that's okay because I think that my hair was really growing. I've only got like 3 or 4 more pills of that hair growth stuff. But once this kind of dies down in a few months and I feel like I want to order packages, I'm going to order some more of those hair vitamins. So anyhow, any packages that you get before you bring them in the house, try to clean them up with either bleach water, some sort of Lysol spray, some sort of disinfectant before you bring them in, okay? Or put them in a double plastic bag and tie it off at the neck. Tight, 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 and hide them in some corner. Do anything you can to keep those bugs, because those bugs are only going to live, the virus is only going to live a certain length of time on those boxes. Like cardboard, they're saying 24 hours. Let's say double, okay? If you get a package from someplace, yeah, it'd be nice to have and open it, but nicer not to be sick. So put it for a couple days, put it away, let it sit there. Protect yourself. Don't be worried if you're overdoing it. Overdoing things is better than being dead, so. I love you guys. I'm going to see you later, okay? Sending you hugs and kisses. Aloha.